Okay, I think we are back up and running, I think. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Can you see me? Can you hear me? That is the question. Holy camole, that was stressful. But we got it. That's all that matters. Hello. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome. Yes. So, apologies. My little audio box decided that it was not going to connect to my computer. Normally, it's just a simple matter of unplugging and plugging back in. But on the rare occasion, as it was today, I had to restart the whole system. So luckily, we had some abilities to keep the stream up, keep the stream live. Twitch would have just died, so that's nice. Yeah, we're back. We're here. Happy Saturday. Another live stream on Tonicized. Welcome, welcome. My name is Sam. If you have not met me before, hello, welcome. Sam, you need to open the door so we can come in. LOL. Yes, I tried, and then I had to restart the door, and now the door works great. So that's great. Welcome, welcome. We are going to be diving into some composition today. We're going to be writing some music and talking about music theory as we always do. So if you have any questions throughout the stream, you just got to let me know, and all is well. Milo, can you stop scratching the couch, my guy? Please. That'd be great. Milo. My goodness. That cat loves the couch more than I love the couch. And it's my couch. Whatever. It's all good. Cats do cat things. So hopefully Milo will come and say hi. We can give him a little bit of screen time. If not, all is well. So we are going to dive into the piece that we've been working on for a while. We haven't heard it in a bit, and I haven't really had a chance to work on it as of late, mostly because of some of the updates in my other job. Just to make sure that, you know, I can balance both. I've been really focusing on that this week, and it's been a lot of fun. So it's good stuff. Oh, he's got the zoomies. Awesome. My Gully says, Sam, I go in hospital Monday, and they are doing their best to make me feel worse. My Gully, I'm so sorry to hear. I hope things are going to work out a little bit better for you than what it sounds like it's going. But my goodness, that's stressful. Hopefully we can get some more positive vibes for you there, my Gully. Hopefully today will bring that in this stream. We can get you smiling and laughing. Okay, so we are going to dive into this piece of music right away. Let's see here. Great. I love this piece. It's one of my favorites so far. It's been really fun to try and play and figure out, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as well. It's going to be a great time. There. Oh no. Where is my stuff? Man, today is not the day to stream, I guess. What is going on? Okay, we're going to do that one more time. All right. We're going to try again. Try one more time. See if this works. And we'll get some music going. I'm excited. Okay. Well, we might just be talking today. What is happening? You guys, sometimes you can rely on tech, and sometimes you just cannot. And when it comes to that, it really gets depressing. No, I think everything's okay. Should be fine. Strange. If not, we can just do some watching and some feedback and some review. That's too darn bad. I'm gonna have to stream another time here this week to make up for all these crazies. Okay, let's try one more time. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna cry, and we can all be sad together. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, that's not even showing up. That's kind of cool. Crazy. What is happening? That is just nuts. It's like it doesn't even want to work. That. Oh my goodness. Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to play some tunes today instead of writing music because my laptop, for some weird reason, is acting up. Oh my goodness. Very vocal today. My cat is kind of opening up more and more, it seems. He's becoming more like himself. Dude, what's up? Cool. Okay. One more try. One more try. Nope. Nothing. That's okay. All right. Well, it's a sad day. It's a sad day, but we can do this one, which is definitely fine. That'll be fun. A lot of fun. Okay. Live. And want the chat. Cool. Oh. Nice, dude. You got your guy. That's awesome. Oh gosh, I was worried that there was no sound there too. Oh my goodness. Yes. Found him. Music Mary lately? Yeah, has anyone seen Music Mary? That's a great question. That would be good to catch up with her. Awesome. Okay. That is good. I'm glad that's working. Ugh. Woo. What a stressful time. What a stressful time. Lots of fun. Lots of fun. Okay. Has anyone seen Tim? That is a great question. I have been thinking about that. There we go. What on earth, my guys? What is happening today? This is crazy. There we go. Now we've got stereo. There we go. We've got sound now. That's good. There it is. Yes, Milo is wanting attention, I think. He's wanting to play. He's got his toy. He's been running around. So once the stream is done, I will definitely be hanging out with him a little bit. So that's good. Hi, everyone. Hey, speak of the devil. Tim is here. Hi, Tim. Welcome. Welcome back to the chat. Today's been a fun one because the tech has not been working nearly as good as I was hoping it would be. And so we can't even get the composition up, which is really frustrating for me. I really was hoping that we could get that going, but was not to be. Yeah, there's the screen for you. Looks great. Super fun. Very fun. Okay. dive in. Yes, Tim, how are you feeling? And we've got two people hospital related today. My goodness. You guys, take care of yourselves if you can. Sometimes we can't help it though. Sometimes things just happen. And that's okay too. Ooh. Fibromyalgia. Dang. Sorry to hear, Tim. Yeah. You know what we're going to do? We're going to write a song right here, right now. We're going to write a song with the piano. We'll take the hour. We'll have some fun. See what we can create. And that will be today's stream. Composer's Corner. Not what I had planned, but we're improvising a little bit. And that's okay. Oh no, your grandfather had a fall the other day, so things have been a bit crazy. I'm so sorry to hear that. That's crazy. My goodness, what a rough week. Rough 2 weeks. That's crazy. I'm so sorry. Hopefully, we can make some music that'll make you feel a little better about the whole thing. And just remember, the challenge is an opportunity to grow. All those challenges I really feel kind of push us to be, better versions of ourselves. So, there is a silver lining somewhere. Flub there, that's okay. Feeling like Bob Ross this morning. All right, so let's dive into some songwriting. Let's write a song on the piano. Let's go through and walk through what it would take for you to come up with an idea on your own. Now, sometimes when I sit down to write music and do stuff that's a little bit, either outside my comfort zone or inside my comfort zone, I have to make a decision as to what kind of style or what kind of sound I want to use. And some of that comes from listening. Of course, if you listen to a specific style or genre of music, you're probably going to lean more towards that style just because that's what you're used to. It's what you're familiar with, and you're more comfortable with those rhythms. So when I first started playing piano, I was very, very used to kind of the country feel, like that. That kind of, it's almost gospel, almost, but it's more of a it's got a lot more rolls to it and third movements, which is really cool. And then I started learning about blues. So we have, it's kind of a nice blues scale with that flat 3, flat 5. And that's when I started exploring jazz. So lots of genres can kind of lend themselves into other styles, which is really cool. And if you listen for those moments in the music, you'll start to kind of identify what's happening and why certain styles sound the way they do, which is pretty cool. So yeah, it's pretty crazy how that can kind of connect a little bit. So just reading the chat here. Yeah, that's rough, Tim and Michael. I have no idea other than that I'm in pain. That's crazy. Sorry to hear, Tim, and sorry to hear my gully. That's very, 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 very frustrating. All right. Theory Mary, welcome to the chat. Thank you so much for being here. I always think of guitar music as country music. Yeah, it's interesting, hey? How that kind of associates, especially with, you know, just those big, nice open chords. But piano also has a lot of cool country stuff. Yeah, it's more of a waltz kind of feel with the country piano stuff. Or it's like... something like that. It's like an intro to a song kind of thing. And then, out of my man on my own. Like something like that's a Rascal Flatts. No, not Rascal Flatts. Brooks and Dunn. Yeah. But there's also this kind of stuff. Ooh, loud. Organ. Something like that. So you'll have a lot of organ in some of the older stuff where it's like just kind of one note the whole time. Or you have the I get way too soulful. Like I sing very almost like R&B soul because I've been listening to a lot of that lately. But like I'm driving down on the road to the ocean. Yeah, something like that. Very straight would be more country for sure. Or what's the hockey game? It's like no. And if you play Mario Kart, it's that's also organ as well. Very cool. So yeah, so let's dive into some songwriting. Let's write a song. Let's put a chord progression together. It's very fun. First things first, we have to pick a key signature and a style. So if we could have a style and a key signature in the chat, that would be fantastic. It sort of crosses into gospel. Yeah, gospel and Motown have very similar vibes as well. No, I am not a master of gospel or Motown by any means. I just know kind of what the ingredients are to make something sound similar, and I think that's important. Do I understand it fully? Have I experienced it culturally? No. And that's, I think, a huge part of the music as well. To play something well, you have to expose yourself to that kind of mindset almost, that culture. So, you know, country musicians usually are country. They grew up in this, like in the bushes and, you know, driving trucks around, and that's usually kind of how it works. So that's kind of cool. But if you want to do like R&B or soul or gospel, you know, you're going to church for at least the first few years of your life just to kind of get a sense of what that actually is. And a lot of R&B soul musicians come out of those churches and into the music world with all of these skill sets that they've developed over, you know, many church services. So it's kind of cool. Me and my dad doing dueling pianos. That would be fun. My dad can't play piano very well. I think he knows maybe a few notes, but it would be an interesting video for sure. That'd be fun. I might ask him about that. It'd be funny. Oh, he's in the chat. Hey, what are your thoughts? Oh, that's funny. 2-5-1 progression in D Dorian, the samba style. Oh my goodness. Tim, some circus music mixed with some folk heavy metal. Be like. That's hard. That's really hard. I'm not doing that anymore. That sounds awful. I didn't do D Dorian, but that's fine. Cool. So it looks like we've got some jazz recommendations, jazz blues, which is cool. At least he didn't ask for the low key mode. True. I mean, that's actually kind of cool. That sounds really fun. I kind of liked that. It's kind of fun. How about some Belgian? You guys. Belgian jazz mixed with bluegrass. What is this? What is this Frankenstein genre you have created in your mind, Tim? This is insane. Belgian jazz mixed with some bluegrass. Oh goodness. What even is Belgian jazz? I don't even know what that is. Definitely do jazz or some boogie woogie style ballad. Okay, cool. So let's do some jazz. I feel like jazz is the most common request here. So let's do that. Now, in terms of key signature, you guys are going to pick something ridiculous if I ask you again. So I'm going to pick a key signature because, well, you've lost that privilege. We're going to go with the key of G. G major is a nice, easy key, but it's also a little challenging because it has that F sharp in it for us beginners if you're starting out. If you're more advanced, then this will be pretty easy to follow. However, there are some chords that we can use that aren't using that F sharp, and that's going to be something we talk about as well. So, jazz. If you're doing a jazz song, you want to use a 2-5-1 chord progression. I definitely missed the F sharp there. That's okay. So, A, D, G. So now we've got 7 chords built with the diatonic chord progression. Forgot the F sharp again. Or, if you want to do an inversion, which is kind of cool, there it is. Very fun. So, now that we have this lovely 2-5-1 progression, maybe we add some spice to it. I always forget the F sharp. Why? Great. Let's add some spice. So, here's 2, and here's 5. Maybe we put something in between this 2 before the 1. So 2, 5. Let's put something in between the 5 and the 1. So maybe we go to the C or the B. And now I'm going to play this chord. This chord is an E dominant chord or an E7. So this is 2-5, right, of a different key. Sounds very jazzy. Very jazzy. And this is a common thing that you see in jazz a lot of the time. And I know, Time and Tony, you're asking, why on earth is a 2-5-1 so stinking important? So with that in mind, 2-5-1s or the 2-5-1 progression happens all the time. All the stinking time. So that's a diminished to move into the 2 again. You recognize it? Classical? So not only is it jazz related, but it's also Debussy, 2-5-1. right? Which is really cool. So now we've got 2, 5, 1, which is really fun. 2, 5, 1. And we can start playing around with that a little bit. So if this is my 1, I can go 2. And a really cool part about coming up with different ideas like this is if you have this note, like the A and the C, and you know you're going to land on the G at some point, like, so 2, 5, 1, what you can do is set up that G chord before you even get there. So A, and then we go to the D, but I'm doing this. And what is this? This is kind of a weird, sneaky way of doing this chord, technically, which is a dominant chord. I forgot to breathe. So what did I do there? I went. That's part of the D major chord. Another part of the D major chord, but I skipped over the G. And now it resolves on the G. So now I'm going. Alright, so it sounds on, off, on. Or in, out, in. Resolve, back to the in. And that's what music's all about, is making a tension. There's a crunch. Resolve. Resolve. So the 2, 5, 1 is a great way to start any jazz tune. Now, 2, 5, 1. Let's do another 2, 5 in a different spot. So minor, dominant, minor, dominant, major. There you go. You're playing Stranger in Paradise. There you go. It's fantastic. So the 2, 5, 1 is used in tons of songs, and you'll probably recognize some of the songs just if you ever decide to play, hey, a 2, 5, 1 progression on the piano. Hey, there's F major, F minor 7, B flat dominant 7, E flat major 7. That's the key of E flat, right? So does it remind you of a song? It's all jazz. 2, 5, 1s are everywhere. It's crazy. So let's write our song. G major, we got. Now, I'm not using a lot of notes. That could be the jazz tune. It could be. So there's just a 2, 5. So again, we're just doing 2, 5, 1, and then we're adding a diminished chord there. This is a G sharp diminished, or on chordy it says A flat, but technically it's G sharp in this case, right? So we've got a really cool, nice, easy chord progression in the left hand. And you can just play around with that if you want. If you're ever bored and you're like, hey, I want to do something, you could do that. Now, with the melody, did I change much on the melody side? Not really. I didn't. It was a lot more one note, right? And it sounds okay. It sounds pretty good. What am I adding to this note, though? I'm adding rhythm. extra spice, right? And it works. It works really well. But it doesn't quite finish the song. So we have to do this again just to, you know, keep the symmetry. Why not, right? That's just a solo. So I'm using different scales there. Usually just D major, G major, that kind of thing. But the melody itself is very rhythmic. It's very syncopated, right? 1 and 2, ba ba da, which is really fun. Boom ba da, boom ba da, do. And the cool part is we could change the chords underneath. Or right? It's really cool. You can basically any chord that has an A in it, you can resolve to. And that's the original. And then maybe it's like. So it's really fun to have that A have different chords underneath it. Right? Because you can change the key signatures, which is really cool. See you later, Music Man. No worries at all. Have a good rest of your week. Take it easy. Bye-bye for now. So, that's our melody. We've got a melody. Maybe we change keys now. So what key am I in now? I'm in the key of C. And I'm doing a 2-5-1 progression in the key of C. It's pretty cool. I like that. And then maybe we go. I've changed keys again, doing a 2-5-1 progression. That doesn't quite work, that melody, so we have to change that. That's so fun how you can do one note. Oh, let's try this. Kind of fun. So that's our song. That is our song. Consonance and dissonance in one direction and brightness and darkness in the other. Yeah, that's fun. That's cool. The hierarchy of what? Alterations. Changes from Ionian. Sharp 4, sharp 1, sharp 2, sharp 7. Hexatonic scales. Crazy. Yeah. It's crazy you know about those. Cool. Yes, Tony. Keep in touch. I love the 2-5-1 percussions. Me too. I really do. They're a lot of fun. And I think they're a really powerful tool that you can use in your music if you want to start writing and creating and exploring different stuff. So, also, I changed my camera angle a little bit. I'm not sure if I like it too much, but it's mostly because I moved some of my gear to my other job, which is educator in the studio and stuff like that. So, but yeah. So, writing songs and creating tunes is not a hard thing. I think a lot of people think it's a very It's my own theory. I've heard about it before, the hexatonic scales. I've heard that word before. I'm not sure where. Weird. I'll have to look into that, Tim. That's very cool. Theory Mary, though, and everyone else watching, if you're wanting to start, creating ideas and come up with different topics and stuff like that, it's not a hard thing to do. I think a lot of the time we get caught up in our own thought process, where it's like, okay, what is this chord? What is this note? What is this thing? What is that thing? And it's a hard thing to wrap our heads around because of all of the theory that we've learned. Now, I'm not saying learning theory is bad, because learning theory gives you more options and more opportunities to explore in a structured way, as opposed to just throwing yourself at the music. But if you're wanting to, just sit there and dabble and come up with, different kind of things, all you have to do is explore and figure it out. And if you come up with, a certain chord progression, see if there's a note in the right hand that you can put over top. And then all of a sudden, boom, you've got yourself a song. It's that easy. Now, granted, if you're just starting out, this might be not the best song. Fair enough. But hey, it's a song, and that's the most important bit. If you can start making stuff that you're passionate about, or you understand, or heck, maybe you don't understand, right? That's huge, and you can start playing around with it a little bit more. I didn't invent hexatonic scale. Yeah, of course. Hierarchy of alterations. That makes sense. Yeah. Gotcha. You have 6 notes per octave. Essentially, yeah. Wait. If you're not counting the doubles, yes. So if you're not counting the tonics, then you have 6. But if you're counting the tonics, it's 7. Very, very clear distinction there. Cool. Some of it sounds glitchy. Do I sound glitchy? Can't pick out the one sour note. You know what? Sometimes finding the sour notes just takes practice and time. If you don't hit the notes to figure out if they sound bad, you'll never know, right? So having that fear of hitting a wrong note is definitely something I think that holds people back from writing music. And that's where your theory comes in, right? If you know the key signature, you know which notes are going to sound good, guaranteed. Now, you don't always have to play those notes, and that's something that you can move on moving forward. But yeah, I think, overall it really comes down to how much you want to explore or how much you want to apply your theory. I did a research paper when I was in university about what kinds of efficacy there is, self-efficacy. So that, for those of you who are maybe unfamiliar with the term, efficacy is your ability to self-motivate. So your ability to go in and do something without anyone telling you to. Now, granted, there is a lot of element of discipline with that, for sure. But there were 3 different types of self-efficacy. There was, I can't even remember now what they're called, but one of them was based around the creative process, the discovery process. So people who were under this category found it very motivating to dive into the deeper things and explore different ideas and motivate themselves through the exploration, right? Think of it as like, the first explorers that came to North America. They were motivated by figuring out what was out there, and that's why they came in and figured it out. But with music, it's very similar, because if you don't know what's out there, you're motivated to find it. And so that's one type of self-efficacy. That's what makes you, practice and motivated. The other type of self-efficacy was doing it for others. So you're learning music for someone. You're learning music for maybe a family member or a friend or someone who you want to perform for, that kind of thing. You're driven by the ability or the need to provide the service for another person. And that's kind of a cool thing, but it's a dangerous thing, because you can start to rely on others for your self-worth. And that's a scary place to be, because if you are relying on others for your self-worth, then you will always feel just worth enough. And it's a very scary feeling to be. And I think it's a balance there for sure. So that's the scariest one for me. And then the other one was just for yourself. And this was the hardest one for me. So self-motivation and self-efficacy, basically, it doesn't come from exploration. It doesn't come from others in this case. This last category comes from your own personal drive. So you set your goal and you make it happen. That's the most disciplined of all of them. And I'm sure you know people of this sort that will be able to sit down and just go and do their thing. And I know a lot of people, my best friend's the same way. And he's extremely driven individual. But the risk of all that is, you put yourself first every time, and others may suffer. So it's an interesting thing, an interesting balance, if you will, and it really comes down to what your values are. So when you're motivating yourself to compose, and you're motivating yourself to create, try to think about what type of self-motivation you are, so that you can better yourself and set yourself up for more successful creating time. If you are motivated by others, well, then write a song for somebody, right? If you are motivated by the discovery process, maybe it's hey, what would it sound like if I wrote this type of tune? Now you're on a path, you're on a journey, and that goal is going to lead you down to, a certain chord progression, a certain type of style, a certain rhythm. All of those things are, the pieces that you need to start exploring, which is really, really fun. And if you're just the self-motivated person, then it's like, hey, I'm going to set a goal for myself to do this and this and this by the end of the month, right? And then it's done. It's very logical. The trouble with that, though, is you need to know what's to learn. And so there's a lot of categories out there online and whatnot. I'm actually working on one now that gives you literally everything in a list so that you can click it and go, okay, what is this? And then you can dive deep into it. Now, this is a slow process. Music is a slow process. It does not happen overnight, of course. We all know this. But when you are watching and learning and growing all on these streams and maybe some other content that you're watching, always try to challenge yourself in setting a goal for yourself afterwards, being like, hey, can I actually do this thing? Which is cool. So it's very cool. That's my little rant for self-efficacy. So, what is this? 6-note scales, but my theory starts by connecting all of the 7-note permutations by single time. Yike! That's a crazy thing. Oh, there you go. Jason McCall. Composing at the same time every day is the only way I can stay motivated. I need structure. That's really interesting. That's really cool. So you only feel creative at certain times, or maybe you only feel motivated at certain times. That is totally normal. I know the dean of my program used to wake up at like 4 o'clock in the morning because that was the only time that his brain really could write music. And so he would wake up at 4, start writing by 4:30, write for 2 hours. And then he would be done, right? And he'd move on with his day and get on with, the day job. But he still got his time in, right? He still got the composing in. And I found that really interesting. I'm not like that. I can barely put a sentence together at that time. But when you're finding those little moments in the day where you're feeling the most creative and the most structured, that is the time to do it. And it sounds like you have really nailed that down, which is fantastic. I think, for me, I find it's very inconsistent, and it's something I'm having a tough time with. And these streams have helped a ton, but in terms of staying motivated and staying like on track with, what's actually going to work every time, it's a shot in the dark. Some days I will literally come up with an entire pop tune. I will sit down, I will write the whole thing from start to finish, no questions asked, in like an hour. Other days, I sit down to write music because I know I should. I can't think of a single stinking thing. And it is crazy. And I do the same time. It doesn't matter. Sometimes it'll be 2 a.m. I'll be writing music. Sometimes it'll be 10 o'clock in the morning. It really does not matter what day it is. So, or what time. So for me, it's a little different. And that's okay, which is cool. Rupert Spencer, welcome to the chat. I really need to try and do chord progressions more because I depend on my sight reading too much. That's an interesting thing. So, Theory Mary, that's I'll bring that up in just a sec. There's something I want to mention about that. My Gully says, Sam, I do like to teach, and when I don't lose motivation. That's great. That's awesome. I am the opposite, Mary. I usually make up chord progressions, but don't sight read often. So this is why I wanted to read Rupert Spencer's here. Since most of the time I am making up my own songs, so there is nothing to sight read right away. This is just a different type of musician. So when I teach my students at the studio I work at now, I always tell them this when they start, that music is not black or white. It's a very gray art form. Of course, it's an art form, but it's a two-sided coin. So if this was the coin, right? This is a cap for the camera. If this is a two-sided coin, music is, in my opinion, this, right? On one side, you have the super creative, well, not that the other side isn't creative, but more of the right brain. So you're experimenting, you're exploring, you're coming up with chord progressions, very similar to what Rupert Spencer's doing, where you sit down and you apply some of those key signatures, and boom, you've got yourself an awesome, chord progression. You're starting to do the stuff similar to what we do on stream. I'm this way. This is the side that I stick on most of the time. However, most people, when they start learning piano, are on the left side, which is the analytical, logical, classical music side. Reading sheet music. Read what's on the page. Don't deviate. Don't question. Right? That is an okay place to be. It's not wrong. It's not, worse. It's not better. It's the same thing. It's music, right? But there's different angles to music, just like there's different angles to all art forms. And if you are finding that you're sticking more to the sight reading and you're like, oh, I can't do these chord progressions, this is really hard, that's okay. You don't have to be everything. It is cool to dabble. It's cool to check it out and be, hey, maybe I should try a chord progression or two to see if I can do it and applying some of the theory that I might know. Or maybe on the flip side of that, maybe you're like, hey, I only play chord progressions all the time. Maybe I should try and challenge myself to sit down and read note for note to maybe play a beautiful piece by Debussy or Chopin or Liszt, right? That is where we can start challenging ourselves and expanding our musical palettes. It's not sitting in our comfortable area that we improve. It's by putting ourselves in different areas that we learn from different things. You could learn so much by looking at sheet music and go, hey, that's crazy. I recognize that this is a 2-5-1 chord progression in the sheet music because of the bass notes, right? Oh, it's a D, a G, and a C. Wow, 2-5-1, done. You got it. Now you know the chords. And the chord progressions will help you figure out what notes are in the sheet music, which is really sneaky. On the flip side of that, if you do sheet music for a while and you recognize some of the patterns and some of the shapes, maybe your technique will be better than someone who just does chord progression. So now you can start adding some of those techniques, some of those runs that you do. You can add that into a chord progression, into a song, and it spices up your chord progression immediately. So they both complement each other, and I don't think one is better than the other. I think they're both equal, and to be a fully flushed out musician, I think, Tim, you've absolutely nailed it. Most of the best players in the world do both, and it's about balance, and I totally agree with you. I think the best players in the world understand this side really well. I dropped my coin. They understand the sheet music side of things, where reading and the patterns and the formulas, and then they also understand the chord progressions and the theory and the circle of fifths and all that kind of stuff that we talk about all the time on the streams. So is it right or wrong to do one or the other? No. It is perfectly fine to stick with one or stick with the other. That's music, right? And maybe that's your version of music. But I also think that there is another kind of level that you can get to with your musical understanding, and it comes from exploring the different sides of music, which is really, really cool. Rupert Spencer says, everyone knows I'm learning Thai. It is very similar to what you're saying. There are some that only want to learn speaking and never bother with learning to read. I am doing both. Yeah, it's the same idea. 100%. The jazz side would be the talking, right? The improv. You have to be on your toes. You have to know what to say. You have to know the vocabulary in order to get through a conversation. Whereas writing, you can take your time and really be grammatically correct and focus on that. It's the same with school, right? English versus science, or English versus math kind of thing, right? Where or social studies, where you're writing opinions, you're coming up with different conversations in your writing. That's very jazz related, right? And then the science and the math is very structured. It's very sheet music related and logical and an orderly approach. So thinking about those two things, I think, what side are you on? Are you on most often? Are you on the chord progression side? Or are you on the sheet music side? And either way is totally cool. It's really fun. What's really interesting, though, is if you can figure that out and then figure out what kind of self-efficacy you are. So, jazz versus classical, technically, to water it down. And then self-motivated, motivated by others, or motivated by curiosity. Those three. If you can figure those out, well, then, boom, you have an awesome practice structure that you can start relying on and really kind of pushing through some of the hurdles that may have kind of held you back in the last week, 2 weeks, month, year. It's really cool. All right, Tim. The 18th century changed the nature of music education. In the 16th century, musicians were taught to do both from the beginning. They weren't separated as concepts until the 1800s. Yeah, then it became possible to get a music degree without ever have touched an instrument. That was the birth of dualism. Yeah. Theory Mary says, I taught myself to read notes and never knew about chord progressions until I followed me on piano. Oh, that's so cool. It's amazing all I've learned in the last 2 years with music. It's so interesting how that's so cool. That's really cool. I watched the Amadeus Mozart movie yesterday. What type of writer was he? And yes, I realize the movie has big flaws. Okay, the great question. Mozart was extremely structured. The man used patterns all over the place. He was very heavily influenced by Bach, and he was good buddies with Mozart. So both of them really kind of were structured. However, in relation to the time, I would say that they were the most impromptu jazz kind of classical musicians, if that makes sense. So they were, instead of having this... right? Bach was very, focused on the precision of it. So right, that's Bach in a nutshell, right? A watered down version of Bach, where, Beethoven, right? That is way more emotionally impactful. So Beethoven and Mozart were the first, I consider to be the first two that started to push into the more emotional creative side, where it's like, oh, what can I make this person feel, as opposed to how are these notes fitting together. Think of Bach as like a mad scientist with the notes, where he would just go like, oh, this fits here, this fits here, this fits here, this fits here, done. It's like typewriter almost. Beethoven and Mozart started exploring what the emotional value of the music was. What was that going to be? And it pushed everyone into, the Romantic period, and then pushed people into the almost the Impressionist movements, where it's, Debussy just playing. Oh, what is it? Right, it's Clair de Lune, kind of a watered down version. So the push towards emotional freedom, if you will, in classical music started with Beethoven and Mozart. That was kind of in my head, that's where the main kind of appeal came from. And then people started to take that. Now, on the flip side of that, people also started to go back to the Bach way and started expanding on that. And then you get the 12-tone serialism, that kind of crazy stuff. But essentially, structure versus emotion. What is the difference, right? Do you have... right? Is that like that's very Bach? It's a very Bach cantata kind of thing. But then you have, you know, maybe no, that's Bach too. Hold on. Yeah, that's Bach. Never mind. So that's Bach, but then Mozart and Beethoven, I can't even think of a Beethoven thing right now. They were more emotional. That's, I guess, the biggest piece. They were playing with the timing, so right, they would put those big moments in there. They would swell, they would bring it back down, that kind of thing. Bach did that, but very little comparatively. So there we go. Dualism is the major minor approach that is taught most commonly that isn't the way most of our favorite composers learned. Yeah, it's crazy. I also have a theory that all of those classical musicians had like a structure that they followed. So, you know, like, oh, like let's do this, let's do that, and then let's like cookie cutter it. Mostly because, and the reason I think this is because they had to write so much music all the time. Like the church at the time would hire them to write, you know, big, massive chamber pieces and all this crazy stuff. And that was a huge deal. That was a big gig as a composer back then. So you would have to write like 50 to 100 pieces of music in like the span of 2 weeks. Crazy. And by hand. So they would have had to have some shorthand or some structures or some like cookie cutter elements to it that wouldn't have, like, otherwise it wouldn't have been possible, in my opinion. But who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was like, yeah, they actually came up with all those ideas on the fly, which in that case, I quit. Oh my goodness. He was part of the generation that was taught both. Definitely Mozart was seen having jams with the commoners. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of drinking stories with composers. That's why I don't drink. Well, sorry. I drink a little bit, but not like to the point where it's crazy. We all need structure for sure. Modal music from folk musicians. Yeah, that's a cool thing too. So, you know, gypsy music and folk music, nothing's written down. And there are many cultures out there that don't write down the music that they play. And I think that's a fascinating thing to dive into. But not today. I have to leave here pretty quick to go to a wedding. But essentially, when you have music that isn't written down, it's all done through ear, right? It's all done by, oh, that sounds like this. This is how you do it. Let's show you, and then you practice this. And then over time, you've done that so many times that you now have all of these little tips and tricks that you can use to start exploring, you know, pieces and songs. And so a fun fact about this kind of thing, if you go and listen to the Sherlock Holmes soundtrack, the one with Robert Downey Jr., written by Hans Zimmer, the score for that movie is recorded with various gypsy musicians from across Europe. The main theme was created in the studio just with all of the musicians just mucking around. They didn't speak the same languages. They didn't speak, you know, they weren't able to communicate very well, but they could communicate through the music, and they were able to play the melody that Hans had written, and they'd made it the way that it is in the movie. So when you hear that movie soundtrack, that melody and that kind of orchestration of it was created organically without writing anything down in the studio, which is kind of cool to think about, which is pretty fun. So it's a fun fact there. There's no way that the modern person would ever subject themselves to the amount of training required to become that level. Yeah, I think you're 100%. We have too many distractions in our modern time. I also think that's true. Yeah, I definitely find myself going on my phone a lot if I'm tired, or if I'm, you know, worn out. My brain has very little discipline in that realm, and it's something I'm working on too. But I think everyone has that challenge. So, Yeah. Yeah, the modal stuff, the folk musicians, the gypsies. That was it's a very cool thing. Music is such a fascinating thing, and I want to make videos about that whole history, but all in due time. All in due time. Anywho, sorry again for the tech glitches this morning. I was a little frustrated with that. I don't know if you could tell. I was like, and of course, we were going to write some music today. Didn't get to do that because of the tech. So I'm going to sit here and figure out what happened. I think it might just be a reset for my my switcher, but who knows? Who knows what the problem is? So I'm going to work on that. But in the meantime, I hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. We'll be back on Monday. I might throw in an extra stream just because, you know, why not? Thursday might be fun. But we'll see. I'll let you guys know on Monday whether or not that's happening or not. But in the meantime, hopefully you guys are taking care of yourselves. I know that some of us are doing going through some challenges this week and last week. So if you are, just remember that we're thinking of you, we're supporting you, and, you know, keep listening to music, get you through, listen to your favorite songs. Does wonders. Does wonders. Okay, I think that's where I will leave it. So thank you again very much for hanging out with me today. I will see you guys soon. I'm going to go play with Milo now. He's just bouncing up the wall here. So, and yeah, take a great break this weekend. Go say hi to your loved ones. Go listen to some music. And I'll see you guys next time. Bye for now.